All right. It's 7 o'clock and we're live. So we're going to have Brendon show up and we'll go on from there. If you're watching this, you may want to check the, I created a live event, like a scheduled event, and I don't know if that one's probably not functioning right now. So let's see what I can do here. Nope, I don't want to do that. Waiting to see if we have some people show up. I'm sure we will. Let me see what's going on. We'll see in just a second. Nope. All right. I'm not sure if it's showing on YouTube just yet. It's showing we've got 2 viewers, but we'll have to see.
I might have to move.
There you go. Yep, you got some sun on you.
Yeah, we're finally seeing some sun after 3 days.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Let me see if this is broadcasting correctly. I'm not sure. Okay, it says it's live.
Yeah, I just got a notification.
Okay. Well, I'm seeing it has 11 people showing up on the viewfinder, which is right there. So there they are. Now they're popping in. So it takes a little bit for this to get caught up. So I've got Wally of the North. That's for Wally from Canada. Grease Rookie from Pennsylvania. Nick from Pennsylvania. And Angela, I believe she's from Alaska. And we've got Nobby's Garage. Hey, there you go. There's from New Zealand. So apparently there's another one from New Zealand.
Oh, another Kiwi. Nice.
Yeah. It says from Auckland.
Oh, yeah, Christchurch. In Christchurch.
Okay. So we've got Leonard. He's out in, I think, Arizona. Dave, Joe, up in Massachusetts. So, yeah, it's getting to be, we're starting to get some people now. So that's good.
Got some big names there, too.
I guess. Anyway,
well, to me, they're big names.
Well, okay, I'm getting messages on my phone and trying to keep track with everything. So, anyway, tonight we're gonna have a conversation, and like I said, I've got. How do I do this? I've got Brendon. He's down in New Zealand, and he's out in his garage, and he's been on this live stream before, leaving comments and stuff like that. So I thought it would be interesting to have him on the channel, and maybe he can relate some information, that is different than what we see here in the U.S. We have the advantage here of the history of our cars, the Mustangs, Camaros, all the American cars that we see in everyday life. But I'm sure it's different in New Zealand, and the prospect of having a Mustang or anything like that is maybe a bit different for Brendon. So let me hear what you have to say.
Very different. Even just trying to find a rundown project car, you just can't find them. A lot of people bring them in from the US. But then, of course, when the car arrives in New Zealand, we have to have a title with the vehicle. So it can be registered on New Zealand roads. Without a title, we can't. It's basically a parts car. And then also the car has to go through basically a rigorous certification thing to get put on the road. So basically, if it's had any rust repairs or any new panels or anything, it has to have a repair certifier look at it, which costs more money. They may ask for a full sandblast. There's lots of things that happen. So we can't just go and buy a nice car out of the States because, as you know, most of them had floor pans and stuff like that. So it all adds to the cost of getting that car legal on top of mechanical. Then you've got seatbelt issues. So we have stringent laws here in New Zealand for having our cars on the road. A car that's older than year 2000 has every 6 months it has inspection or a warrant of fitness, and anything newer than 2000 has a warrant of fitness check every year. So I don't know how you guys work, but at least every 6 months our cars get checked to be road legal and obviously registered as well.
Yeah, that's way different than here in the States. But of course, here, if a car, at least in the state of Georgia, if a car is over 25 years old, we don't even have to have a title. There's no, it can be a bill of sale. I've seen cars driving around here with no doors on them, no fenders, the hood gone. It could be just the inner structure of the car, but if it has a tag on it and working lights, they don't care. I've seen trucks without truck beds, just a couple of dummy lights mounted on a frame. Nothing said, Now, the challenge you're suggesting is to import a car, it has to have a title. So I don't know how difficult, for us, like I said, title in different states, it's different things. Some require a title and some don't. So I understand that would be a big challenge for you to get one. Now, if it does, you said if it doesn't have a title, it becomes basically just a parts car.
Yeah.
Okay.
There could possibly be other ways, but yeah, my partner, she works in the registration vicinity, a place called VINS, Vehicle Inspection New Zealand, which do all the compliance and re-registration checks. And yeah, she said if we import a Mustang from somewhere in the US, and I know it's a big place, that we need to have a title at least to register against. So basically, what that means is we're not registering a stolen car. That's why they have to have some sort of paperwork that legislates that vehicle. Okay,
I get it. I'm just going to mention some more people checking in. We've got Harvey Redmond, Leonard, again from the Arizona desert, Bob Shoemaker, David Foy from Rutledge, Georgia. Leonard points out that New Zealand and Australia were lucky that they got the 302 Cleveland. So
yes, correct. Yes.
I didn't even know that was an animal. Then we have Wally chimes in. Let's see, Wally. Whoops. Yeah, no registration in certain years for Wyatt.
Right.
Wally chimes in, and Canada just certified once to get a plate, and that is it. So that's interesting. Yep. And if you haven't, you remember, Wally has a '68 convertible that he bought in the States, and it had a bunch of work done to it that it turns out was all bad. So when you were talking about the idea that sandblasting a car, are you talking about a car that's completely finished, or how does that operate?
Now, before I started my new job just over a week ago, I worked in the compliance industry, which is with the cars I was doing all the mechanical repairs, but I saw cars come in. A guy brought in a 1950 Pontiac Chieftain, and this thing looked immaculate.
Okay.
It looked a beautiful coat of paint. Brought it in from the US. It comes in and it gets stripped apart for an inspection. All the kick panels get removed, the wheels get removed, the brake drums removed to check all the brakes and everything. And there have been a lot of previous rust repairs in the floors, the inner sills, everything like that. So what happens is the inspector puts what you call a repair certification on that vehicle. So a repair certifier, he's a registered repair certifier, panel beater, comes in and he basically writes notes about the vehicle, fills out a form and says, right, that needs to be sandblasted, the whole floor needs to be sandblasted, I need to see what these repairs look like. So you could be talking $1,000 just to sandblast it before you even start, assessing the actual repairs and stuff like that. So it can get quite costly, and it cost the guy a lot of money to get that car on the road. Although it looked tidy, it looked like a good car. But that, unfortunately, that's our process. Because I've seen some pretty dodgy rush repairs.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not my call to say whether the car's had good rush repairs or not. But that's just unfortunately with with any car, not just an old car. Like a late model car comes in and it's had a rear guard stitched on. That's a repair search straight away, so that has to be stripped down and re-inspected and possibly even redone.
Okay. Well, that's
so yeah. There's a lot of Barry. There's a lot of things to think about when importing, especially a classic car in from any country, not just the US, any country.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to go back to some of the comments now. I know Mason has checked in. He asked me a couple of times about a hat, and his question is, can you send a hat or your channel? Also, how much are hats? I've talked about this before. The hats are $26 shipped anywhere in the continental U.S. So, Mason, if you want a hat, you need to send me an email, and we'll figure it out and go from there. We got 3X Xena checking in, and Leonard here in good old California. You've got to smog your car. So there you go. California has such restrictions. Every 2 years, they have to do a smog check on their car. And I know they have to have whatever equipment came on that car from the factory has to be there. Now, I do know there are people who they keep that equipment. They'll put it on the car, go have it smog test, checked or whatever, take it back home and take that stuff off and just continue driving it as long as it's passed. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Leonard, but I've heard that, so I can only assume it's true. Harvey says no New Jersey inspections on older than 1995. Here's the thing. Like I said, in Georgia, there's no inspections at all. There's nothing. There's just, if you have a bill of sale to anything and you say, this is my car, all you have to do is pay a fee to get the tag, as long as you have insurance on it. So they don't even look at the car. They never see it. So you put a tag on it. It's like I have my dune buggy. Well, I can tag my dune buggy, even though it's a heavily modified Volkswagen. I tag it as a 68 Beetle. Nobody cares. It just has a tag on it. So, we here in the States, we're very lucky that we have the advantage of that kind of environment. And I know like you're saying, I'm sure Australia is very similar in how they handle stuff like that. And I'm just comparing that because I know that's places on the other side of the planet from us. But, I'm sure their restrictions are really strong as well.
The Brooklyn pony that you're doing, that would be from basically when you first brought that vehicle in and started chopping it up and putting all your new panels in, that would need a repair certifier from the get-go to get registered in New Zealand.
Really?
He would need to inspect all the stuff that you're doing to it. All your cross member and all your brakes, suspension, all your RRS or your rack and pinion steering will have to have what you call a low volume certification once it's close to the road, which is about $600. And you get an aluminium tag with all the modifications that vehicle has done, has had done to it. Sorry. Yeah. So I watch a lot of videos with you guys building all these cars, and then next thing you're driving them. But over here, it is a lot trickier to do that, and a bit more expensive because we do have the certifications and the repairs and stuff like that to consider on top of buying the vehicle or whatnot. So.
So
it's an interesting, yeah.
So for you have a Mustang.
Oh, I wish.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I've got a 54 custom line.
A 54
custom line.
Custom light?
Custom line, Ford custom line, 1954.
Oh, custom line.
Yep.
So now I have to give me some more details on that. What does that compare to in the States?
54 custom line, is a custom line. It's a right-hand drive. It's a New Zealand new one, but they made them in, well, they are an American car. It was a factory side valve V8.
Okay.
Yeah, the last of them, before they went to the 55 Ford, which was the 292 or 272 or whatever they went to. But you guys got plenty of custom lines over there, and they're cheap. They're cheap.
Yeah.
Ford mainline, custom line. Yeah, it's basically the model after the twin spinner. The shoebox Ford.
Okay.
Was the previous model. Yeah, if you understand that, I'm
Yes.
trying to
Yeah.
talk in US terms compared to our terms because everything's sort of different.
Right. Okay. So, but when you got the car, did you import it? I mean,
No, it was built new in New Zealand.
Okay.
So basically, it's Canadian and Australian market right-hand drive.
Okay. Because I do know some people will convert a car to right-hand drive, because of the laws. But
again, over here to do that is very expensive and very time-consuming and certification. Yep.
Okay.
But the unfortunate thing about the old custom line is it's very rusty. And I've found places in the US that do new repair panels. But yeah, it's very rusty. So I'm unsure what I'm going to do with it yet. Okay.
And you just can't go buy stuff. I mean, if nobody's going to make a panel for that.
They make inner and outer sills here in New Zealand. That's it. They don't make floor pans. They don't make dog legs. They don't make the other, your rear wheel arches or anything here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a couple other comments here. Angela from Anchorage. Anchorage has done away with inspections for emissions. Most of the cars on the road now are much newer, so they determined it was no longer needed. Just got to sign over the title when you sell it. So there you go on that one. Leonard points out that the Highway Patrol is now checking cars that have been modified. And I think a lot of that out in California was because in the case of the comedian that totaled out his Barracuda or whatever he had, it was basically a Dodge Hellcat with a early model Barracuda on it, and he wrecked it. And then suddenly everybody wanted to get involved and see what was going on, why this car didn't have all the safety precautions or safety devices built in. So when that happened, Kevin Hart, I think, when he wrecked his custom Cuda, that really put a hurting on those people that are building those cars because they didn't follow, the restrictions or whatever. Let's see. Okay, so Leonard says the custom line when it came out had a 272 in it. I've taken Leonard's word for it. Leonard's older than me, and I know he knows some good information. So I'm going to give Leonard a bell for that one. So some good side information there. So we've got several other people checking in. Now, I'm not real good sometimes with names. I don't know how you'd say this. I'm sorry. Goodmunder Eifels. I'm going to guess. Goodmunder Eifels. And I've had a conversation with him recently. He follows me on my Facebook page, and we were discussing, some things that he was talking about with his car and different things. And if I remember correctly, he's from Iceland originally, but lives here in the States. So he's got an interesting project he's working on. Let's see. Yeah. So Leonard said I was right about the car crash, and the fact that now they're cracking down on all this stuff, trying to make it even more restrictive. And, California does a lot of very restrictive stuff. I mean, you talk about New Zealand, but California is our version of that. They do over the top stuff, and it's really crazy that they do that. So, well, look at that. I got the name right. Apparently I get a bell for that. I said that name right. Oh, okay. We got Robert Adams showed up. He's been working on his house. And that's another thing, Brendon and I had a test run on this a little bit earlier today, just to see if this was going to work, because this is a new thing for me. I did it last week with, a couple people from the U.S. So we wanted to see if there was any lag or anything like that. And in our conversation, he pointed out that you're on lockdown as well in New Zealand, right?
Yep, full lockdown.
So you said 4 weeks is a
Minimum 4 weeks.
Minimum. So, and you said you just started that new job a week ago, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, I know it's going to be a struggle, obviously, because the new job means, you're not starting out at the top of the pyramid for pay. So I know that has to put some kind of bind on you.
The New Zealand government has put out a lot of money for businesses to keep their employees.
Good.
Right.
That's
so
good.
What's happening is basically the government pays each business per employee $585. And then the employer can top up to 80% to make up your wage.
Okay.
And my employer said, no, we're paying 100%. So I still get my full wage.
Okay.
For the next 4 weeks.
Okay.
But with obviously the virus happening and New Zealand under strict rules now, it could go on for longer.
Yeah.
So we're okay for now for the next month.
Yeah.
For the next 3 weeks, I should say.
Yeah.
And we'll just see how we go. See, New Zealand's a very, very small place. So something like this can take hold and grip our country in days.
Yeah.
So that's why they've just basically put a full lockdown. We don't go to work. Only essential services and businesses are open. That's it.
Well, I know for my situation, I've said it before. I work for the airlines. I'm a full-time mechanic for the airlines, and because of this really affects the airline industry globally. Mm-hmm. And so people don't, I know it's very important for mom and pop, small places to stay open and any kind of business to stay open. And the reality is, those in a lot of cases, flying is a luxury. And so for people to even get on the planes, they have to be working. They have to have a job. They have to have somewhere to go and money to spend. So it's going to be quite a challenge for the aircraft industry over globally. And I know there will probably be people going out of business. In my case, we were asked to take a voluntary furlough of 30 days, no pay at all. And they were just saying, if you can do this, please do this. So that was just one thing. And they offered it for up to 90 days, if you could do it. On the other side of that, they were offering, or they didn't offer, basically they cut our hours. So instead of working 40 hours a week, we're going to work 30 hours a week. And they're trying to space it out to where they can keep things moving without having a lot of people there. So, that's basically a 25% pay cut right off the top. So that's, and that's, I'm fortunate that I've been there almost 30 years. I don't see a risk of me losing my job, but there are many people below me who potentially could. And like I said, it's a continuing effect. It's a snowball effect. Every little thing affects the next thing down the line. And it's very unfortunate, but let me check in with some other people here. Let's see, we've got Engine loves to start Matthew. Okay. Let me see. He puts, hi, host Bless from UK, Leeds, Yorkshire, England. Hi all. Well, I'm going to say hello to Matthew. I got my neighbor next door. He's checking in. We've got Wade. Yep. Take care all and be safe. Thank you, Wade.
You too. You too.
And
thank you.
And as Angela points out, or Darlene, I think she goes by, that's how it is in Alaska. All lockdown except essential services. And it's going to take a long time. It is. It's not going to be something that fixes itself in a matter of weeks. This is going to snowball into, I'm going to say, at least 6 months, maybe even to a year, to where we kind of start rolling back into the normal sequence of things. So unfortunately, that's just but it's everybody. It's not just one industry. It's not just one state or one country. It's, and it's really strange, really strange. Okay, so what do we have here? Grocery takeout food and home improvements in Dallas Fort Worth. Yep, that's pretty much all it is here too. I have to give a shout out to Major One Payne. So I'll just let you know that's my son. So he's got a little channel. He's got a little bit of stuff on there. I'm trying to encourage him to start making more videos. He's got I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called a one wheel. It's like a skateboard with one big wheel in the middle, and it's got a gyroscope built in to where if you lean forward, it goes forward. I've ridden the thing. It's pretty cool, but he's been making little videos with that. And I said, you need to start doing that and let people see this stuff so that they can kind of enjoy watching what's going on. But anyway, so that's it's a neat toy. I don't know if you ever saw it before. Do you have such things over there, Brendon?
We have all sorts of weird stuff over here.
Well, this is a manufactured thing. This isn't just something somebody built. This is by a company, I think it's called One Wheel. I don't know if you've ever seen one or not. But it's got a big fat, like go-kart tire. It's real wide, and it's like that diameter, and then a flat panel on it, and you tilt forward in it, And I had it. I was able to ride it my first ride. It's really neat. It's electric.
Oh, yeah. I think you sort of lean forward and it goes, and then if you lean back, it stops.
Sort of. It's not like it's not the one that does it like 2 feet front to side. It's
right.
It's like a skateboard. It looks kind of like a big, like a square skateboard, and you tilt. Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of cool. Let's see here. So Adam checks in, says North Florida is all voluntary. Waterheads running around like nothing is wrong. Yeah, it's going to keep hitting, and people don't realize they got to stay inside. Let's see. We've got a check-in here from Roger Martin. American Airlines just offered their AMTs, that's their mechanics, 25% pay to take voluntary leave of absence for up to a year. Wow. So they're going to go from full pay to 25%, but it sounds like it could be for a whole year. So that's giving up a lot of revenue. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
Terry Baptist, what is your son's name? My son's name is Jake. So let's see. Oh, here we go. Mach 1. Did Ford manufacture early Mustangs in New Zealand? So there's a question for you.
Whoa. I know for a fact that there were Mustangs here in the very early stages, but no, I will disagree that no, they weren't manufactured here. We did get Fords in New Zealand. We got the Ford Falcon, which is an Australian car, but we manufactured them here in New Zealand until I think Ford and Wellington shut down in maybe the late 80s. The Prefect, the Ford Anglia, which those are both UK cars. We had the Ford Custom line, which I think were assembled in Canada as right-hand drive and then exported to Australia and New Zealand and registered as new. But for the Mustang, no. I have seen photos in the late 60s of the 64, 65 Mustang with early number plates on it. But like I say, it's probably 3 or 4 years old and it could have been imported. But definitely the Ford Falcon was made in New Zealand. The Holden, the Australian GM, Holden assembled in New Zealand, but not the Mustang. Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, because we don't know much about the cars that were. Yeah, there were. I know at a certain time period in certain countries, they made cars in that country based on that design or whatever. But I'm not surprised that they weren't made in New Zealand. But that's a good question, and I'm going to give Mach 1 a bell for that because that's information we wouldn't have known. Now you said they made the Falcon, and we have the American version of the Falcon, of course, but I assume the Falcon in New Zealand was more like wasn't that like the Road Warrior Falcon? Wasn't that what they called it?
Yes,
Falcon?
yes. Well, that the Road Warrior, Mad Max, that was a mid-70s XB Falcon two-door hardtop.
Okay.
So that model hardtop started in 72 and finished in 1979. So that was only a 3 or 4 year old car in that the first Mad Max movie, which brought out in 1979 with a very young Mel Gibson.
Sure.
But before that, I know you guys have the early Falcons of the 60, 61 through to 65, I think, which you had the Sprint, two-door, four-door sedan, which is very much the same as our 60 to 65 Falcon. And then in 66, we went to the XR, which was a bigger square body, round tail lights, typical mid-60s car, but that was obviously designed through Ford Australia.
Okay.
And also the first to get a V8, which I think the XR GT was a 289.
Okay.
Windsor.
And I think for us, the Falcon, if I'm not mistaken, I think the last year was 68, I think. Because I remember we had some at my dad's junkyard. There was a couple of little Falcons sitting there, but I'm thinking that was 68, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yes. Now, if I remember rightly, they were the 68 Falcon Sports Coupe. Two-door coupe. I have seen people import a few of them from the States,
okay,
which they look very similar to our 66, 67 XR Falcon. Very similar tail lights front, but obviously, slightly different designing here and there. But the XR to XY Falcon which was 67 to 71, was based on the Mustang floor pan.
Oh, okay.
And then in 72, in 72, they went to the all Australian design Falcon.
Okay. Well, Leonard he's commented that 1970 was the last year for the Falcon. So right. I'll have to give Leonard a bell because I don't know for sure. And Leonard, I know you're watching. I sent you an invite. So if you want to be on this right now, Leonard, if you use your phone, you just got to follow the email. And you can be on here as well. You just have to see if you want to do it. Let's see what else we got. We have Tom Paget from France. He says, hi, Barry. Hey, Brendon. So Team 351. And Mike, 68 Cougar. Now, if you remember, if you go back and look at my videos where I did road shows, I called them. I think Mike was the first road show that I did. He's got that 68 Cougar down in Columbus, Georgia. And so he points out aircraft engine manufacturing still considered essential. And I believe that. You got to have flying. There's still planes going to fly regardless. There's still stuff that needs to move. But anyway, if you haven't seen that video, you can go back and check Mike's video. We actually had a conversation the other day. He's had some, family stuff to deal with over the last year, but he's planning on getting back on that Cougar and getting it up and running soon.
Nice game.
Let's see what Wade Macbeth taking a 30-day voluntary leave of absence. We'll be burning through Joe Daddy videos and make sure I get great in for my 66 Mustang Resto. Well, besides the honeydew list. Well, I'll give you a bell for watching the videos. Let's see. We got, this looks like a newer name. I don't remember this name before. Reese Richter. Do you know about the 68 302 block being covered in 289 parts and being sold as a 289? I've heard that. I'm not surprised. I know they were doing transitions. And so, they were just kind of putting things together. And they very well have either put the one or the other. I think it could either put I'm sure Leonard has an answer, but you could probably put the 289 heads on the 302 or the 302 on the 289. I don't know for sure, but I know they were crossing over stuff like that. And it was probably just, a transitional type thing. I don't know what year they quit running the 289 specifically. But they probably had plenty of blocks to get run through, or cylinder heads or whatever. So that's the other thing. You said that 54 custom line, it has a side valve V8 in it.
It did from factory.
Okay,
Very last of them.
but obviously it doesn't have it now.
No, it's got the 351 Cleveland.
Okay, that's what I thought. Now, what happens to that? What happened to the old engine?
The old engine's long gone. The motor that's in the car, the car was actually customized in the late 70s, and I've been in touch with the guy that actually modified it.
Wow.
And the guys down at Charlton Auto in Invercargill, down the bottom of the South Island, they brought in a container from the US in the late 70s with 5 351 Clevelands in them. And the guy that had the car, he got it. It was a flathead. He took the flathead out and he put a 272 and a 4-speed GT Falcon top loader in it, 4-speed manual. And then after that, when these 351s arrived, so, a 351 Cleveland, which mine's a DOAE block, so it's a 1970. It was only 8-9 years old, that motor, and to have a 351 Cleveland then, you had, they were the grunter.
Sure.
And yeah, he put that in with a FMX, and that motor had been in the car since about 1980.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to guess there's not a lot of 351 Clevelands.
A lot of 302s, as Leonard said earlier. New Zealand and Australia got the 302 Cleveland. You talk to someone from America with the 302 Cleveland, they don't know. They're like, oh, is it a D-stroke 351 or something, But when you were saying the conversation before about the 289 302 heads, you can actually do that with the Cleveland as well. You can get a 351, put 302 Cleveland heads on, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leonard, it either lowers or raises the compression, so it does something. And a lot of people do it and get good performance out of it.
See, now I know you're talking 351 Cleveland. There's also a 351 modified here in the States.
The 351M and the 400M, is that correct?
I don't know about a 400, but I know the 351M for sure.
Right, okay.
And the reason, and I don't know how that compares to anything else. What I learned, one of the things I learned, or one of many things I learned while at my dad's junkyard, we had manuals that were this thick. It was all Chilton manuals. They were like the car Bible as far as parts interchange. So whenever we were looking for specifically Fords, they were always the challenge. And it would say, I'm looking for, a set of heads for this 68 Torino or whatever. And we'd have to say, okay, well, what engine do you have first? What month was it made? What does it have, a smog pump on it? Does it have, this air conditioning thing, or, all these little things. And it was such a struggle because literally you'd go down a list and try to figure out, okay, well, for this car, those heads only fit for like the month of January through September 3rd. It was crazy. And I never understood that. It always just was a crazy thing to have to know all this extra stuff. And like a Chevy, you'd say, I want a set of heads for a 350. You're like, oh, here, right here they are.
Yeah.
It was always a challenge. I was trying to see if anybody responded on to the 351M question, but Robert Adams points out that the trucks often came out of the factory as 360s when they ran out of 390 engines. So there you go for that.
360, that's interesting. The only 360 I recognize is the Chrysler.
Right.
360 V8. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I probably have heard, I'm not sure I've heard the 360 in a Ford, but it's very likely. Here we have Leonard. The 400 was never a M, just a 351. The crank and pistons were the difference between the two. So there you go. Here's the question from Tom Paget. He's rebuilding a 351 Cleveland from a 73 Mach 1. Removed all the valves, and the surface looks porous. They look stock. Intake valve has Fordco script on it. Should I replace them? That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you myself. Maybe, I don't know if Brendon would or not, but Leonard would probably have some input on this. And it all depends on porous. You know, if you're talking about the contact surface, or if you're talking the underside of the valve, you know, that's always going to look kind of rough because they're not real pretty, you know, from the factory. So if you're looking at that,
sorry, Barry, gone are the days of the good old valve grind. I mean, who does a valve grind these days?
Right.
You know, maybe a valve grind may fix the problem. Depends on how porous or pitted the mating surface between the head and the valve itself is.
Right.
If that's what he's talking about being porous,
well, see,
it's quite rough.
And that's what I'm asking,
you know?
because if you're talking about the contact surfaces, that's one thing. If you're talking about the underside of the valve, the bottom where the stem comes down, that area around that stem is always going to look chunky. It's all, you know, it's just the way they were cast. So I'm not sure exactly how to answer that, Tom, but that's a good question. Let me see what I have here. Robert, he has a couple Mitchell interchange books. Very handy. Ford engine trans interchange, super confusing. They couldn't standardize anything. That's very true. You were 100% correct on that. Darlene, a prior owner of my 66 Mustang Coupe, replaced the original engine with a 302. My VIN still says it has a 289. Yeah, and that's really common. Even the 68 Mustang that I'm building, you know, factory, it says 289. Well, it says 289 on the fenders. You know, I'm putting a 302 in it, or I have put a 302 in it. So, Mike points out a 351M and 400M used mostly in trucks and Broncos. Yeah. So I'll take his word for that and give Mike a bell.
I had a 75 Ford Falcon with a 400 in it.
Okay.
Very different. They're sort of between a 351 and like maybe a big block. I don't know whether they had taller decks or something on them. I'm not 100% sure. I just haven't owned enough for them to know much about them.
Okay. Yeah, Mach 1 says the 351M and 400 were the same block.
Okay.
Robert, let's see. 360, 390, same block, different rotating assembly. I believe that. Leonard, the 360 was strictly a truck engine. Okay. I believe that. I've never seen a 360 in a car. That's for sure. Here we go. So Tom is saying he's talking about the face looking to the pistons.
I just cleaned them up.
Okay. Yeah. If it's not the contact area, it's not that big a deal. You know, unless you have something like that, really bad corrosion, it's not that big a deal because that surface area is not, it's just a stop. So when the valve seats into the you know, the head, it's just sealing it off. So that underside of the face of the valve facing the pistons isn't that critical. Let's see. Leonard's asking about the heads on Tom's engine, if they're open chamber or closed. Let's see, Dan. Ford was 360 from the 68 through 75 only in the truck line. So, Dave, you get a bell for that. He's got specific years, so that's cool. Okay, and then Tim says, then you have a 351 Windsor. Yeah. So let's see, Brian. My last 400M, 4 inches bore, 4 inches stroke, and bad wrist pin. So that gives you a little more specifics on that. Let's see, we've got Douglas. He's at work, can't stay, just saying hi. Well, hi. Glad you checked in. Um, I know, thinking about the idea of, okay, so Tom says it's closed chamber on his heads. Now, again, we're talking about New Zealand and stuff going on over there. Now, how does that affect? And I'm not sure. I'm sure there is a tourist industry over there.
Yes. Yep.
Is that a big thing?
It is very big.
Yeah.
Apparently, New Zealand makes millions each day through the tourists. I mean, we have a beautiful country, and
sure,
I've talked to a lot of tourists, and they just love it, and they always come here every summer. We've got beautiful mountains, beautiful forests, and especially like Queenstown, which is down towards the bottom of the South Island. Good skiing, stuff like that, and yeah, they really noticed a hit straight away. So
I'm sure
it has. I mean, it's unfortunate that we're missing out on a lot. New Zealand's missing out on a lot of money through the tourist industry. But in saying that, we've just got to do what we've got to do, Barry. We have to bite the bullet and sacrifice.
Yeah. I noticed, and not to really get off the subject matter, but I run. I try to run when I can. Sometimes I run on treadmill. Sometimes I run outside. Well, at the one gym that I use, it has a video screen that you can do a virtual run. And so I noticed one of the runs is in New Zealand, and it shows, really? It shows some sort of it's a city there that I think it doesn't have any cars. Everything is water in the way that it goes. I'm pretty sure it was New Zealand. But they talk about it being one of the big tourist destinations, and I forget what the name of it was, but maybe I'm wrong. You could correct me if you know, but it sounded like it was known for its canals and stuff, some sort of canal system. I don't know.
I know here in Christchurch, we've got the cathedral and also the Avon River.
Okay.
Possibly it could be another tourist attraction that on your virtual treadmill.
Yeah.
As a lot of you guys may remember, 9 years ago we had a big earthquake here, which basically our cathedral, it was a couple of 100 years old, I think it was, is destroyed. And we lost 185 people, which doesn't sound like much, but in a small country, it's a big thing. And it sort of hasn't been the same since. A lot of empty grounds now. And it's a big thing. It was a 7.1, and it was like right under Christchurch. So yeah, it really tore the place apart.
Wow.
Pretty scary. Yeah, pretty scary. Yeah. Now, are there frequent earthquakes, or are they? We had frequent earthquakes for about 3 or 4 years after. Most aftershocks. We had a couple of really, really good aftershocks. We still get the odd 1 or 2, but whenever someone feels a little 3.5 or a 4, it's one of those things is like, oh, here we go again. So everyone is on edge. So it was a shame, and but like I say, it's 9 years ago. We've moved on. We sort of don't forget about what happened, and we'll never forget, because it's something that I personally went through it, and it was, you can't describe it. I'm sure. Yeah. So and now we've got this, and
there's a question for you from Darlene.
No, they're not.
Not true.
No.
So there are cats in New Zealand.
Oh, we've got one. We've got two little dogs and a cat. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No, they're not down here at all.
You may have dispelled a myth then that nobody knew, or it was being spread. So.
No, definitely allowed cats here. Definitely.
Okay. Now that Reese is asking a question. Is it me, or do Eleanors ruin a good car? We've talked about this before. The Eleanor from the Nicolas Cage movie.
There's 2 of them.
Very popular. Yeah. What's that?
There's two
What's
Eleanors.
that?
Which one are we talking
Yes.
about?
Yes. Well, the one from the Nicolas Cage movie, I'm not. It's okay. I'm not a fan of those kind of mods. It's just not my thing. I mean, they look cool, but if everybody has one, they're not cool anymore. So that's just the way I look at it. And of course, my favorite Eleanor is from the original Gone in 60 Seconds, which was a 73. I think 73.
Yep.
73 Mach 1. So anyway, I prefer the original Eleanor over the new one. So here we have Leonard, my brother. Let's see. Oh yeah, you got to see where they filmed Lord of the Rings. So
that was filmed. Yep.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Let's see, Robert. When American Airlines is up and running to New Zealand again, that's one of the places I want to go. A friend has a place I can probably stay at. That would be nice. I'm sure it's a long flight from the U.S. to New Zealand. As you said before, when we were talking, if it's almost 8 o'clock right now at our time. So that means it's 1 o'clock at your time tomorrow, though.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock on Tuesday here.
Yeah, you're in the future.
In the afternoon. Yep. I can tell you what's happening. It's going to rain tomorrow.
Okay. I hope so. Leonard asked, did they ever find the people missing from White Island?
Yeah. That was the volcanic eruption a few months ago.
Okay.
I haven't really followed up more. I know the situation, but I just lost track of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, I can't answer.
You can't know everything. Yeah.
Sorry.
Here's another question from Darlene. Oh no, statement. They had a really bad earthquake almost 2 years ago. We had aftershocks for ages after. Just very life altering. So,
yes.
And what I've found, or what I've learned, I've lived in Georgia for almost 30. Actually, if you count my military time, 32 years. But if you've heard of in Georgia, there's a place called Stone Mountain. Stone Mountain is a giant granite outcropping coming up out of the earth. It's a massive structure. And from what I've learned, that's the top of a granite mountain that is underground. And so the bulk of the state of Georgia is sitting on a granite mountain, essentially, that is underground. So it's kind of interesting to learn that's just a peak sticking out of the ground. So hopefully, I know we've had a few, well, I haven't experienced it, but I know the upper state has had minor trembles, occasionally, but nothing devastating by any means. Let's see. Darlene says, yay, kitties. So, yeah, Leonard says, keep them original. He's talking about the Eleanor cars. So I agree with him. Now Robert says, got to mod them some. Everyone has a boring stock Mustang. And, to a point, I agree with that. You've got to do something to spice them up if you want, changing out the engine or modifying wheels and different things. But I just don't want to see every other 68 fastback an Eleanor clone. That's like if you ever go to a car show and you look for a 57 Chevy, you're going to find them. And you'll find that most of them are red and they all look the same. You can be a two-door, hardtop convertible, whatever. The bulk of them are red. And to me, it's just a boring car. It doesn't do anything for me anymore but you see when it's been modified into a gasser or something like that, I'm going to go look at that car. But I don't care anything about a red 57 Chevy. Doesn't matter. So, let me see here. We've got a couple comments. Oh, here we go. Terry Baptist, did you know there's a 72 or 73 Boss Mustang prototype? I think I've heard of that, but have not seen it. Reese points out that there is a YouTube video on it. Yeah, here you go, Brendon. Leonard has a question for you. I think we'd all take advantage of that if we could.
I wish I could give you the number.
Yeah. This is the talking about that prototype car. The guy who owned it didn't know it because they hid that it was a prototype. So that would be interesting to have a look at. Here we go. Hey there, mate. Kiwi living in Brisbane, Australia. Love your videos. Yep. Always learning, and I'm 76. You get 2 bells for that. Good new hobby for a while. I'm isolating. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, we're all kind of isolating. So I'm glad you're here. That was Rex. Let's see, Robert. Here he's had a series of small earthquakes here in northwest Dallas, Fort Worth, about 5 years ago due to the fracking. Lots of minor drywall damage and sticking doors. Yeah, and that's another thing that's getting crazy is that oil fracking. I don't know if they probably don't have anything like that in New Zealand, I hope.
I know that there's a lot of protesting with they want to drill offshore from our country.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of protesting. Obviously, the Greenpeace, just a lot of protesting. When it comes to fuel, we used to have what you call CNG, compressed natural gas in the North Island, and we had LPG, liquid petroleum gas. And that was all New Zealand made. I think it still is. But with the drilling that they want to do offshores of New Zealand is to try and generate our own oil to generate fuel, to try and keep our costs down of fuel, because obviously we buy it in.
Right.
Currently, our fuel price it's dropped. It was at $2.12 a litre. I know you guys the US gallon.
Yes.
So I think it's 4.5 litres to a gallon, I think. So at the moment, we're at $1.75 a litre for fuel. But we expect that to jump up after, things start to settle down a little bit. But yeah, we have had experiments with drilling, but it always sort of doesn't seem to come through.
So you're basically paying about $8 a gallon for gas?
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, let me tell you that today, of course, in the U.S., our prices aren't that anywhere near that, and I hope they never get there. But with our stores that we have, if we buy gas with, at the store, we get fuel credits if that store offers it. So in my case, I shop at a store called Kroger. Kroger gives you store credits. So every $100 you spend, you get 10 cents off a gallon of gas.
Yep.
Okay. So you have something similar?
Yeah, a lot of supermarkets, you spend over $150 at the supermarket, you get 10 cents off at, say, a recommended service station. You can get credit. You can get cards that you swipe every time you gas up, and then it adds credit. And then at the end of the month, if you've saved, $10 or $20 on it, you can use that. So when you fill your tank for $90, it only costs you $70.
Wow.
So we do have that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay,
that's great. I just went and filled up today, and I filled up my car, my daughter's car, and filled up 2 gas cans. So we're limited to 35 gallons is all we can buy. And with I had 60 cents off per gallon with that card. So I paid $1.15 for a gallon of gas today.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
$1.15. And so I got 35 gallons was like $40. It's crazy. And the thing is, they have to keep dropping the prices because they can't sit on this fuel. It has to keep moving. They can't let it sit. And unfortunately, they're just got to drop prices and try to get people to keep buying it. But yeah, I hope we never get to a point where we're paying anywhere near that amount.
I drive a 2004 Ford Fairlane every day to work, and I think they have like a 60-litre tank, and it's about $110 to fill it.
Wow. Okay, but they still. Well, I guess I didn't realize they still sell a Fairlane name over there?
It's the Ford Fairlane discontinued on the Australian and New Zealand market in 2008.
Okay.
Now, mine's a 2004. It's an what you call corporate taxi. So it was used to, for corporate functions and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's done 438,000 kilometers. So in miles, it's about 260-ish miles, I think.
Yeah.
And I got it for a good price. It's a nice car. It's got all the bells and whistles, wood grain interior, electric everything. But yeah, the Fairlane discontinued in 2008, which was an Australian Fairlane, so it'd be nothing that you guys would sort of recognise over in the US.
Yeah. Tom put out another question on exhaust valve. The face getting pushed by the rocker, the end of the valve, looks really bad. It looks like there's a little piece insert in the valves for the contact.
I'd say hardened valves.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know there's a little collar that goes on the spring for the retainer, usually a split piece that goes around the valve on the retainer, but I don't think there's anything you can replace on the end of a valve. That's not possible. So we understand, Tom. English is not your first language. We get it. That's okay. So Robert has responded. Yeah. Well, there you go. There's little discs called lash caps, but I haven't seen them in many years. They would fit on the tip of the valve. So I don't have a great answer other than I know I'm more familiar with the Chevys with the tapered cone that holds it on the spring retainer. Let's see. Here's a question. Mach 1's, Barry, do you calculate your time when you're building a car? How do you actually keep track? No. I don't track my time. I hate that. I'm not into it. If I actually kept track of my time and people paid me what I should be paid, I'd be a multimillionaire. I don't like doing the paperwork. I don't like sitting here and having something and writing it down. I worked 3 hours today. I worked 4 hours. I worked 8 hours. I don't have time for that. I don't like it. So no, I don't do that. Let's see. Leonard says, Robert points out that $1.45 a gallon here and dropping at a regular gas station. Yep. Leonard points out it's less than $3 a gallon where he's at, which is always going to be high. $1.22 in Wisconsin today. Wow. Yeah. Andrew says he doesn't know because he hasn't been out of the state or out of the house in days.
Hey, Andy.
I get that. Yeah. So there you have a grease rookie showing up. Leonard says it's finally below $3 a gallon here in Southern California, and it was close to $5 at one time. Yeah. That's why another reason why I don't live in California. Okay, so Leonard's talking about, I don't know, I kind of got lost on this. Just the valve. Buick used them on a valve train in the 60s. So I'm a little lost on that conversation. Not to get off the subject, but I was going to, I've had somebody, I forget who it is, if it's GM guy 3, whatever, I can't remember how it's labeled, but every week I have somebody ask me about junkyard stories. And so I was going to share a junkyard story today, and we're going to see, let me get Bob Shoemaker to respond here. There you go, Tom. 351 Cleveland does not have lash caps, only a hardened tip welded to the valve. It gets resurfaced with a valve job. Lash caps only on 302 and 351 OE exhaust valves. So there's an answer for you, Tom. Yeah, Leonard says come visit. Yeah, in California. I probably could now. I can get on a plane pretty easy. Oh, Danny showed up. Darlene says gas is $3 to $4 a gallon in Alaska. You get a wave for you, Brendon. And let's see, Reese. I saw a video when someone messed up the price of diesel, so it was 21 cents, and the guy filled all of his heavy equipment with a giant tank on the back of his truck. Yeah. Oh, Terry has asked, have you heard the California Special Mustang? Yes. Yeah, that was a pretty cool car. You know, they did a variety of stuff like that. You had a California Special. There was a company that made, I think in Texas, they sold a model called a Twister. You know, if you ever heard of that, they had their own version. You come to find out that there was different dealerships that were buying these Mustangs and doing their own mods, and kind of like the Yenko Camaro or stuff like that, or Baldwin Motion. But they were doing it with the Mustangs as well. So yeah, California Special. But there's a bunch of different stuff out there like that. So.
Oh, there's a button there before you start your story, Barry. Talking about the California Special Mustang, we also get here what you call the Roush Mustang.
Yes.
Which I'm sure you guys are familiar with.
Sure.
And we also get obviously the Shelby, which I'm led to believe, do they leave the factory as a Mustang and go straight to Shelby to have their modifications?
I believe that's how it works. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep. Because I was actually at the Shelby factory out in Vegas. When I went to SEMA, Mustang Connection 1 is another channel. If you haven't seen his channel, check him out. Mustang Connection 1. He got me into the Shelby premiere event where they were releasing a new truck, a Shelby truck. And I actually have film footage inside the facility, but not in the assembly line area. They have a big window where you can look into the assembly line area. But I never put that out. I never finished making that video and putting it out for that SEMA show. But it was interesting to see that. And yeah, they had a giant garage with bays with all these Mustangs sitting in. They were doing the mods too. So yeah. And when we're talking about the California Special, that was and I don't remember the specific years. I know 68 they had it, but I don't think they had it after that. So there was no modern version of the California Special. If you were to look at them, I know they had the deck lid had a little air dam on it. The extensions on the back kind of flowed with it. It had a special nameplate on the side. It said California Special. I think it had different taillights, you know, little things. And it had air scoops on the side, you know, where the ducting would have went, where it looks like it goes behind the doors, you know, kind of like the Eleanor one where it has the scoop looking deal. So, but yeah, the Roush and that stuff, of course, that's going to be all modern cars. That's going to be all the new stuff.
Yeah.
But I was on Facebook earlier today with a friend of mine, Mike, and you know, Mike grew up with me, and he'd spent a lot of time up at the Junkyard with me, and so we had a brief little conversation. And I don't know if he's watching tonight. I told him to check in, so I don't know if he has an official YouTube name on here or not. But I said to Mike, I'm going to talk about him tonight. So the story is that our junkyard was, of course, you know, big. It had over 1,000 cars in it, and it was, you know, just kind of on a big field. Let's just say a big field with dirt roads going back and forth between the rows of cars. So, you know, it's the width of it. You know, you could drive a truck through it or whatever. And we had cars, you know, like back to back. So you had like a parking lot. You know, you'd have two on each row or section. And anyway, I used to take my friends. You know, we'd go up there and we'd ride go-karts, or we'd ride whatever we could find, you know, to ride. And in this case, we had some three-wheelers, you know, the old Honda three-wheelers. And so I think at that time we probably had 3 or 4 three-wheelers maybe a four-wheeler by this point. And so Mike was going to ride the three-wheeler, or we were both going to ride the three-wheelers. And, he wasn't real familiar with how they handled. So if you're not familiar with a three-wheeler, you don't ride them like a motorcycle or a bicycle. You actually have to transition your weight. If you turn left, you have to lean to the right so that it'll pivot on two wheels. If you turn left and lean in like a motorcycle or a bicycle, you're going to fly sideways or possibly flip it. Anyway, so Mike was having some fun on his three-wheeler. And so we're running going all through the junkyard. And he ended up at the end of one of the roads, he tried to turn and he didn't lean the correct way or something. And so he went straight into the back of a car. And when I say into the back of a car, I mean into the back of a car, because the car at the end of that row, it had no trunk lid on it, and it was sitting on the ground so that the tail panel, whatever car it was, had a bit of a taper to it. And when he hit it, he actually went up into the trunk. So the back wheels of the three-wheeler were in the trunk, and the front wheel was up on the roof. And by the time I got there, I don't know what had happened exactly. Mike was off of it, and he's like, "This thing's stupid," because he couldn't make the turn. But so if you can imagine trying to ride one of these things, trying to turn and losing control, and just ending up sitting on top of a car. But thankfully, he didn't get hurt. And I just thought that was a funny story to relate. We were probably, I don't know, 15, something like that at the time. So that was a good many years ago. But and I have another story about Mike I could probably mention. He actually brought it up, but I want to cover some stuff here. We had so there. Now Darlene says she needs to go look up the California special. She had not actually heard of it, so we're spreading information. Darlene gets a good nod for that. And look up the Twister too. Look up I think it was Texas. Look up the Twister Mustang. So and there were several out there. There were several combinations with weird colors. There was one that showed up on Facebook. The color was hideous. Whatever it was ugly. It was some sort of a greenish pastel looking color. And as it turns out, it was from a very small dealership, and they only made like 50 of them. So when you look at this grand scale of limited production and you find one of these, this guy, I forget what the name of it was, but a guy was going to repaint it, everything else. And all the other people say, no. That's the only one you're going to find like that ever. And I don't know if he ever did anything with it, but it's, I don't know if do you have stuff like that occasionally over there, Brendon? Like any kind of special edition cars?
Yeah, not necessarily New Zealand made cars, but a lot of people bring in stuff from other countries that might be a one-off build, or 10 of them were built worldwide, sort of thing. And the thing they're concerned about is having all the matching numbers and the body tags, and the engine matches the body tag and stuff like that, which means that car's worth some serious money. Like the money our cars are worth here compared to what it is in the US it's a big difference.
Sure.
To buy a muscle car here, you've got to spend, if you want to buy, there's a GT, I think it's a GT 500 Shelby, a 68 on a site called Trade Me, which is basically the same as eBay, Craigslist, etc. And it's $295,000.
Wow.
So,
and is that US dollars?
Sorry,
I don't know how that compares. I don't know if how your money compares to the US dollar. I don't know if that's a.
I was having a bit of a browse around Craigslist yesterday, and found a 73 Mustang Fastback for $2,000. So it was pretty rough. And I put the calculation in, and I think it turned out to be about 5,000 New Zealand.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's just over half, over double.
Yeah, that's a big difference. That's interesting. let's see. Reese pointed out the new Mustangs have an option for a California Special 2015 to present. So I don't keep up with the new ones very much, but now we know. So Reese, you get a bell for that. Thank you. Leonard points out 68 only on the California Special, and it had T-Bird taillights. So Leonard's racking up some bells tonight. Let me see what else I got. Let me get back off. Oh, I've got a bunch of comments coming in behind that. Reese said they had Shelby taillights and a bump on the trunk, badging and turn signals on the hood. So I don't know if the Shelby and the Thunderbird taillights were considered the same or not. Let's see. 69 Mustang Fastback E. No, I haven't heard of that one. Need some more details on that. Carl. Hi, Barry. I got work, bought a new Mustang with the California Special. I'm not sure if it was a dealer add-on. So there you go. That's one of the new ones. Reese is asking again, what's the Mach E or Fastback E? I'd like to know that myself. Let's see. Terry, I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. Can-Am Spider claims to fix that problem. I'm not sure what that's in relation to. So, thank you, Darlene. Yep, that was a good story. That was fun. Twister Mustang. Yep, got to figure that out. Oh, here you go. Goodmunder says High Country. So I'm assuming he's implying there's a Mustang High Country. I'm thinking that's what he's saying. Company that makes Can-Am Spider claims to have fixed the trike tip over problem. Okay, I get it. So you're not talking about like the Honda three-wheelers. The Can-Am Spider is inverse, I believe. You're talking about has front drive wheels and a single tail wheel. So that's a bit different. Let's see. Robert points out the Twister was from Kansas. It's not Texas. That makes sense because they have lots of tornadoes. So now I get it.
I was going to say
that. Mach 1. Okay, Reese is asking about the Fastback E. So Leonard, a friend in high school, had a Grabber 72 Mustang. Or Grabber Mustang in 72. Yeah, they had the Grabber, Mustang Grabber name went forward because I think they started in 70 and, had Grabber Blue and different colors, yellow and stuff like that. But they also had the Mavericks, they had the Grabber Maverick version. But I did not keep up with them in 72. Oh, okay. So here Mach 1 points out that the E was a 6-banger fastback stripped for fuel economy. Okay. Let me get my bell thicket. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to give you a bell for that. And it's rare. It is rare, in my opinion, to find a 6-cylinder fastback 69 or 70 Mustang. That's very rare. Because nobody wanted something like that. But apparently they did make some that were for fuel economy. And so we'll have to go with that. I know sometime last year, I actually missed out on a chance. About this time last year, I found a 69 fastback that was a 6-cylinder car. So it may very well have been the E version that was up in Atlanta, and somebody had gutted it. The floor pan was gone. They cut off the front frame rails. It was just a shell. And I wanted to buy it, but I wasn't sure at that time whether I had a place to put it, and we had our taxes coming up. So I wasn't sure if I could pay for it, but the price was very good. I could have got it for like $1,200, and it had defenders and doors, and I still regret not getting that because if I had bought that car, I would not have restored it at all. It would have been a full custom. It would have been a really cool, fast Mustang instead of the original 6-cylinder version because nobody wants one of those. I say that. maybe one little group does. But there you go. Robert points out that $1 US is $1.66 New Zealand.
Okay, so it's under. Okay.
So, we'll see. There you go. Goodmunder points out Texas had the Lone Star Special Mustang in 1967, 175 made. You know, and that may be that one that I was thinking about. It had weird colors. That may be the Lone Star that I heard about. Obviously, super low production. So, and a lot of people that I've heard of people getting them. Like I said, they repainted them. They didn't like the color, and so that that history is hard to get back. Terry, have you heard the '65 Mustang wagon that Ford turned? I've heard of that, and I've seen ones that were converted, made into a station wagon. I've actually had a conversation with Mustang One or Mustang Connection One, Rich. He was suggesting that we get together and build a '67 station wagon Mustang is what he wants to build. Been an interesting collaboration, but that may not happen. Danny, what's your take on the full custom builds? I don't have any problem with it. I'd rather, if they're gonna do a custom build, fine. Just don't make it some rare car that you can never get it back. That's just my opinion. Take a standard car and modify it and let it go.
Speaking of that, Danny, you guys will probably know of it on Netflix. We've just watched the second season of Gotham Garage. And about 3 episodes in, they had a 69 Mark I. And they cut the rear guards off and extended them out, probably 3 to 4 inches. And they put an extra 2 tail lights each side. So it actually had 5 tail lights per side. And widened it up to fit these huge, 12-inch wide wheels on the back or something. And they made a radical sort of custom out of it. A 69 Mark I would be better off being left sort of, I would have thought, sort of an original body anyway. Wheels, tires, brakes, that's all interchangeable stuff that you can put back to original if you desire. But sort of widening the rear guards out quite considerably, I probably wouldn't have, not on that particular model anyway, I wouldn't have thought.
Right. Now, when you say rear guards, we would say rear quarters. Correct?
Yeah, rear quarters. Like when you talk about the deck lid or trunk, I say boot lid.
Right.
Or bonnet.
Right. Or bonnet. Yes. Yeah. So your guards are fenders.
And we call the rear fenders. Guards.
The rear guards are quarters. But the front fenders are, what are they called?
Guards. Front guards.
Front guard. Okay, so your front and rear guards.
Yep.
And then, of course, we would say shock absorbers, but I think you say dampeners. Is that correct?
No, we just say shocks.
You say shocks. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it must be in England. I think maybe in England they say dampers.
Yes, they do have. Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
So it's interesting to see some of the different words used for different things. Let's see. Robert asked, did the original Mustang prototype survive? It was called a Cougar and had oval headlights. I don't know for sure. On that one. It may still be. I don't know. If it is, it's hidden away somewhere. Dave points out, Mustang wagon, they didn't turn it down. It just took them 55 years to make. Yeah, let's not talk about that atrocity. Let's see. Shelby got one Mustang with a 6-banger and 4-speed. That's one for your books. Oh, they got sent one Mustang. Yeah, and now that would be interesting, Leonard, if that car still exists. If it actually has, that configuration with a Shelby trim, that could be very interesting. Let's see. The Wagon 65 was featured on the cover of Mustangs Monthly last year. So there you go. First Mustang was a prototype test bed that was a 2-seater. Yeah, that was an oddball configuration for sure. That was kind of like a, it's more like a wedge looking thing. Had a tapered nose, if I remember correctly. A little two-seater, just really a test thing. You know, as I'm sitting here and I'm getting this conversation and I'm getting, you know, messages here, different things. I want to relate something that I kind of, sometimes it becomes a little bit irritating, but then most of the time I just laugh at it because there are people, you know, there's a lot of people who watch my channel. I've got 37,000 people that watch this channel, and for a variety of reasons, whether it's the Mustangs or my repair videos or doing body work or whatever. And I like that. I like to keep it, you know, a little bit of difference going on. And I did that video on the 68 Mustang fender patch that I did for the Jade Mustang, where I cut out that whole section and welded it in. And I got a complaint about that video. The guy complained that I talk too much. He said, this video should only be 15 minutes long. And I point out to him, and I point out in different cases, that whenever I do my videos, I can't assume that everybody has the same amount of knowledge. I can't assume that they have the same amount of experience or they're anywhere near the experience level that I have. So for the most part, 99% or better are happy with the way I do my things because they want to see that information. They want to understand why you're doing it this way or why you're turning it that way or why it's, you know, stuff like that. But I occasionally get these guys, they're, you know, they may have some experience or they've done stuff like that for a long time. And they're like, you know, this is just wasting my time. Well, I'm sorry. You know, I'm not doing it for people that have years of experience under the belt. I'm doing it for people who don't know. And so, you know, I just got a comment. Somebody said, talk faster. So I don't know what video he was talking about, a video. And I think it was it was a repair video replacing an alternator on a Honda Odyssey. Now, talk faster. Well, how's that going to help? I still have to do the process. But I'd rather take my time and explain it and do it so people can get it and, you know, feel comfortable doing it. I get many more comments from people, especially on Facebook, where they're appreciative because now they have confidence to try to tackle their subject, try to tackle their project. And so that's where I get the most satisfaction because, you know, these guys that want to throw a couple complaints on, it doesn't bother me. It can just, if they want to watch, go do something else. But I'm glad that I'm able to help people out and get them, you know, get them on board with doing their projects. Here's a question. Larry, doing a Mustang straight 6 to V8 Mustang swap worth doing, or would you keep it as a straight 6? That's on you, Larry.
Yeah.
I mean, I prefer to V8 myself just because Mustang should have, you know, like especially a V8, 68, 67 and up, feel like they should have a V8 in them. 64 to 66, you know, the early models, yeah, they were more the economy car. A 6-cylinder is fine, you know, not a big deal. Just know that if you're doing that.
To comment.
What's that?
I'm waiting for Grease Rookie to comment.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he's got a 65 and a half. Remember that. But I prefer the V8. But just know that going forward, you need to go ahead and convert it to 5-lug if you're going to put a V8 in it. You know, better brakes, bigger springs, stuff like that. So just know that going forward. But it's just me. I prefer the V8 in the 67 and up cars. But it's all in what you want to do too. So there you go. Darlene says she really appreciated that video. I really needed all those explanations. And that's talking about the fender video. And that's well, you get a bell for that. Thank you. What did Leonard had? Last time I checked, oh, okay. He's thinking that Shelby, 6-cylinder Shelby still around, painted red electric with gold stripes. Yeah, I have not seen that. Need to know the whys. Yep. Reese, have you ever heard about the Rainbow of Colors Mustangs? Hmm. Maybe that name kind of rings a bell, but I'm not going to say that I definitely have. So I would need some enlightenment on that one. Let's see, Carl. I appreciate. I end up watching them over and over. We are slow learners. Well, that's the advantage of having the videos. You can watch them over and over. You can go back and, oh, what did I miss? Or what's not working? So that's one advantage for that. Leonard, don't change the way you do things, man. The amount of learning you put out is great. Thank you, Leonard. I appreciate that.
That's the thing. You can't please everyone.
Yeah, I know that, and that's just life. That's society. You can't please everyone, and you can't dwell on that either, because otherwise you just be stymied. Hey, I got a new word, stymied. I get a bell for saying stymied. Robert saying Robert, no. You don't get to put a Toyota engine in a Mustang. No.
Just on side note, sorry, Barry, with that, when he said the 1JZ Toyota 6-cylinder, in Australia, they've got an engine called the Barra 4-litre, which is a twin cam 6-cylinder. You can get them in your XR6 turbo, your turbocharged. Well, they're actually a very common engine transplant now in Australia with a lot of Mustangs. They're getting the twin cam turbocharged 6-cylinder, and they're getting over 1,000 horsepower out of a 6-cylinder twin cam turbo. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It's an Australian designed engine. The Holden Commodore V8 run the LS1 to, I think they're up to like the LS6 or something now, which I presume you guys are very familiar with your Chevy Caprices and stuff like that over there.
Yeah.
And the Ford were running the 5.4 quad cam, and in their last couple of years in production, they went to the 5-litre Coyote, which I understand is in the Mustang, if I remember rightly. But the Ford 6, which is now discontinued, Ford Falcon in Australia closed in 2016. But yeah, the twin cam 4-litre 6-cylinder Ford engine, great engine, and good for transplants into your earlier Fords.
Okay, that's good to know. Reese says he would say keep it a 6-cylinder on a concourse restoration, otherwise swap it. And like I said, that's kind of where I'm at. Terry, it's like learning how to ride a bicycle. You have to keep trying until you master it. Yep. Let's see where. Leonard points out when he was in the Navy, the Ford dealer had a 460 Ram Air in it. Never seen another one. Wow, that would be really interesting to see. There is a friend of mine back in Pennsylvania who he came across I think it was a 67 Mustang, and it was a coupe. And if I remember the story correctly, it could be off a little bit. The car wouldn't run. The guy who had it, he said it wouldn't start. He didn't know what was wrong with it. He'd tried different things and gave up on it. So my friend, this was in 1985. He went and bought this car for $700. It was just cheap. And the guy had a new old stock fender to go with it and some other pieces. Well, the car, he thought it had a 390 in it. So a 67 Mustang with a 390. He gets it home and he starts looking at it and he's like, something's not right with this car. And he could not get fuel to the fuel pump or, pump fuel. So he took the fuel pump off and he went to the parts store to get a fuel pump for a 390. Now anybody can correct me on this. I don't know for sure, but the guy said, that's not a fuel pump for a 390. I think it was a 428 or 429 engine. It was some bigger, different version. So I don't know if the fuel pump is interchangeable between those. But the implication was you don't have a 390 in this car. You have a bigger engine. And so he was like, wait a minute, something's not right because this car was never taken apart. This car is the way it is. And in the rear of the car, it had a really big differential, like he implied it was bigger than a Ford 9-inch. So I don't know what it was, but he said it was really huge. Well, come to find out, the only problem with the car was the fuel line. The guy had tried to jack up the car and somehow caught the fuel line and crushed it. And so that's why it wasn't getting any fuel. He replaced that fuel line and put the old fuel pump back on or whatever, and it started right up. So he started looking at some things, and he said something just doesn't add up with his car. So he contacted a local Mustang club. And again, this is in 1985. He said it was about 8 or 10 guys that showed up, and they start looking at the car and walking around it and checking doors and opening this and looking at numbers. And they were like, "We want to buy this car from you." And he said, "Wait a minute, what do you mean?" He said, "We want to buy this car." And they said, "Well, I don't want to sell it." And they said, "Well, we want to give you $50,000 or some exorbitant number in 1985. And he's like, "What are you talking about? There's no way." And he said, "I'm not going to sell it." And he said they finally decided to tell him what it was. And he said it was a prototype. They said this car, the VIN number, all the numbers were correct for a 67 prototype built with like a 428, if I remember correctly. I know it was a big engine. It was bigger than a 390. So he said, "I'm not selling it." He said, "I'm not going to do anything with it." And so I don't know if he still has it or still sold it. I haven't talked to him since 1985, honestly. But I assume, there were cars made like that. They were supposed to be destroyed. And we all hear the story where somebody bought it, from Ford, drove it, kind of like the Bullitt car. They bought it, whatever. So I'd have to do some more research on it and find out if whatever happened to that car. But it's interesting to hear, like Leonard's talking about this one with a 460 Ram Air in it. That could be a very, one of one that doesn't exist anymore. Thank you, Darlene. Yeah, I do remember you bought some stuff from it. I appreciate that. Let's see. Y'all aren't talking enough on this video. Good vibes. Thank you, Robert. Let's see. I got to page back up and down here a little bit. I'm getting off sync. They should have something showing you how many times someone watched your videos. I seen on Facebook. I'm one of your top fans. Yeah, Danny, that would be interesting to see how many repeats of the same video by individual viewers. But unfortunately, there's do that. But I'll give you a bell anyway. Yeah, Leonard says just don't get to drink coffee while working. Big Kingfish, I know you spend a great deal of time on the Brooklyn Pony. How soon before it's ready for paint? And you have any color in mind, you're going to paint the car? Yes. If you, I don't know if I talk about it in the initial videos or the teardown videos, that car was originally a silver blue, and it's going back to that color. In fact, not that it really is the cleanest display here, but if you look, I have a little model kit of a silver blue convertible. So that's what it'll be close to that. But yeah, it'll be silver blue. Timeline is up in the air. I'd like to have it done yesterday, but you see some of the stuff happening with the engine fitment, transmission. I still need other pieces and parts to get it to finish up certain things. So that's kind of taking up some time. So I don't have a specific timeline as to when it'll be done. Uh-oh. There you go, Brendon. Straight sixes are epic. Well, if I know Andrew, he's just listening to this conversation right now. So he's out there working on his car. I'm sure he's doing something productive. He's got to be. GM guy missed 40 minutes. Oh no. Yeah, you can replay it. The Mustang from one of the Fast and Furious movies had.
Yeah, it did.
You're familiar with that, Brendon?
Yeah.
So it had a Skyline engine in it? Is that the same as that
Yeah.
Toyota?
Yeah, they're a, what do they call it? An RB26, I think, which were twin turbo, twin cam, which come
Okay.
out in the GTR Skylines of the early 90s. Yeah, they're a car that's getting very expensive now.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what kind of horsepower they put out from the factory, but I've heard really good things about them.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yep. Reese saying there's, yeah, okay, he's not referring to GM guy missing out. There's something cool about being everyone on the same time. That's true. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Rick. Yeah. If you haven't already, throw a thumbs up out there. Thumbs up on the video.
I can show you a photo. I'll just butt in there.
What do you got? Oh, wow.
So that
34?
32. Now
Okay.
that picture there is me in 1995, and that was my parents' 32 Ford Coupe. It was a genuine
Nice.
all steel. So I was 14 in this photo. It was one of the first cars I ever got to drive. It was based on the American Graffiti 32.
Okay.
It was running a 327 Power Glide and a 9-inch. And that car got sold in 1999, and it went to Australia. And I think my parents got 13,000 for it. Well, a car of that vicinity now here in New Zealand is probably 80,000 plus.
Wow.
Genuine all-steel 32. So
wow.
I just thought I'd just share that. You know, that I've been a car guy for over 20 years. And before I was playing with the real cars, I was building plastic kit sets, and you know, had parents that were heavily involved with cars.
Wait,
and it wasn't just Ford. I mean, before that, they had a '57 Plymouth Plaza, which was a basic four-door. They had a 360 V8 in it. Yeah, and a 454 powered 65 Impala. Yeah, we had all sorts, and that's where I get my petrol head from, I suppose, you know. So
sure.
I just thought I'd just share that with you guys. Sorry to butt in, Barry, but yeah, I just
no,
thought I'd
that's
share
fine.
that.
I appreciate you making the comments because, you know, people say I talk too much. I need other people to talk as well.
And that's what I enjoy about this live streaming, and everyone's got comments, and people are watching, and people are learning different things, and they're finding out different things from other countries as well, which I find that's very cool.
Well, and you know what I wanted, like I said, we talked about this a little bit earlier. It would be very cool to have people from other countries join in on this to learn this stuff, you know, because there's a lot of stuff you mentioned already today that I didn't know. And it's stuff to learn and cross over. And I've said it before to people, if you're interested in doing this, I could just send you an invite. All I need is an email. And I can send you an invite when the broadcast starts, and you can just jump in and be part of it. So it's not that hard.
I'm just on my Samsung S7 cell phone.
Yeah.
And it's easy. He sends a link. You click on the link. You make sure your mic's working and your camera's set up, and then you type in your name, whatever name you want, which is there.
Down there. Look at that.
Hit go, and away you go. Yeah. Yeah.
You got to think, which way am I pointing? You know. So, we got GM guy, buddy's dad won a '68 RSSS 396 Camaro from one of those magazine mail-in slip entries. The son still has it. Red convertible hockey stripes. Wow.
Nice car. Wow. Nice.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yep.
Let's see. Donald Morris, put a split header on the 6-cylinder. It will sound like a V8. There you go. That's one way around it. Or you could be like Andrew, where he has that custom muffler on his 65 that is half gone. So it gives it a real mean sound. You know,
he started it the other day. Yeah, he's put a video of it running with no exhaust.
Yeah. I think he started it with the drive shaft on it. And he had it. It's just trying to turn, because it'll try to turn even though it's in park. it'll still try to turn. So he learned that you can't do that. What is interesting, Leonard, there's a guy in Oregon who has Cleveland heads that he's getting from New Zealand and Australia. Check out and see how much he wants for a set. Interesting. There you go. Grease Rookie. Practicing my welding and checking in. You guys are doing awesome. Great chat. Good. I'm glad to hear you're welding.
Andy. Yeah, you're going well.
Yeah, he's getting that welding going. Okay. So Robert is still wanting to do a viewers project video. So, and Brendon, you could do one. You could do a viewers project video and send it to me, and we'll get it on there and get your channel up. Is that the name of your channel, Brendon?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. So if you guys, I mean, I don't know what all you have on your channel. Honestly, I haven't looked.
Odds and ends. Yeah. Yep.
What's that?
Odds and ends. I've got some basic videos there. I've actually got a wee project behind me in the garage at the moment. It's a 1956 Ford 100E Prefect, which is a UK car. And the front half, I actually chopped it off just behind the firewall. It was quite rusty. And me and my partner always wanted a front half of a car as garden art. So took the motor out, and I've actually got it sitting out the front of our house with flowers all growing out of the engine bay. And it gets a lot of comments. Yeah. And we're just car heads. We love cars. And the rear half, I've decided to do a trailer. So I've been playing around with that. Just a budget trailer. I like to do things on a budget because, and do everything myself, the welding and panel work, stuff like that. I'd like to think that I'm a bit of a rookie in all areas of, work on cars. Mechanical work I can do quite good because that's what I do as a living, and I've been doing it for years. Yeah. But when it comes to rust work and that, I like to do it all myself. And hey, I'm not a trade qualified rust repair guy, and it doesn't matter. I just do it myself, and I enjoy it. And you learn on the way. Yeah. And and that's what Andy's doing. That's what Andy's doing. Yep.
Well, you guys, check out Brendon's channel. You might find something interesting there. Give him a look. And it's funny, like you're saying, I mentioned it in I have my other channel, J Daddy's Workshop, where I do could be home repairs or working on a go-kart, whatever, just random stuff that I do on that channel. And I think in my opener, I say, how do I word it? I don't consider myself a professional. I consider myself an amateur with a lot of experience. Yep. And that's true for just about anything. You can call yourself a professional in any aspect, but we're all really just either really highly skilled amateurs, because there's nobody that knows everything about everything. Nobody. Even though they may put it off that way.
Here's something for you, Barry. I'm jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. Yes, that's a great saying. Yes. Let's see. We got Mach 1s. I burned in rear frame rails and full rear pan in my 70 Mach 1 before the live feed. Had to cut the trunk floor welds to make it here on time. Dedication is hard. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Good on you.
Let's see, Carl. I had a RS SS Camaro 396. I traded it for the Mustang because my son is a Mustang nut. Maybe you should have just bought the Mustang. It'd be hard for me to give up an RS SS Camaro with a 396. There you go. Terry's commenting on your hot rod back in the day. So it's always that the ones you get rid of that you think, man, if we still had that. And I from my history of my dad having a junkyard, so many cars went through that place, and I look back and it's just, I remember all of them. I really do. Every one of those cars, I can tell you where it sat. I remember where those cars were. But let's see.
Thank you.
Leonard, hey, what's with the 66 Chevy? I'm not sure about that one. Danny still says camera shy. Oh, you don't want to be on the live feed because you're camera shy. Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Reese, you could do one too. Yeah. So that's talking about doing the viewers projects, I believe. There you go. There's a question for you, Brendon.
In Australia, they're only about 2 or 3 hours behind us, so it'll be Tuesday in Australia as well. I'm in New Zealand, so yeah, we're Tuesday.
Yeah. Terry, you're missing out. Brendon is in New Zealand, but close. It'd be the difference between Georgia and California as far as the time zones, from what you're saying, 2 to 3 hours. Darlene was thinking of doing video on mine once all the snow finally melts and once I buy a camera. Wait, Darlene, you can do it with your cell phone. You can do it with a cell phone. Just letting you know.
Use your phone, yeah, definitely, definitely. I do all my videos on my cell phone.
Yep. Yeah, Leonard's asking, is that how we tune into your channel, Brendon 351C?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes.
Is there any gaps in that? Is there a space or anything?
All one word.
All one word, Brendon 351C. So give him a look, Leonard. Yeah, they're in the future. GM guy. They're in the future. Let's see. Okay, so we've got makes a mean breakfast muffin also. Oh, you're talking about my he's talking about my workshop channel where I did I made my own McDonald's egg McMuffin. That actually is fairly popular. People seem to like that. Yes, yeah. Let's see. Carl Schwerzinski. It was a 68 375 horse race package. Like you said, though, probably wasn't going to put it back to the original, so I opted to let it go. Make some good memories with the son of the Mustang. Well, okay. I'll give you a bell for that. I understand. I'm sure you made some money off of it or come out really good because that's a rare car. So we'll let you go on that. Yeah. Yeah, Darlene, use your phone.
I'm on my phone now, Darlene. Yep.
Yeah. If you were, you could be on this live feed right now with your phone. Okay. Leonard, are you talking about the Impala sitting in the driveway in front of my garage? Is that what the question is? Because I did allude to that. I alluded to that when I was doing a video on the last engine fit. And if you're asking, that's a 65 Impala. So I'm going to do a little video on that car. And thank you, Roger, for bringing that up. That car, and I'll talk about it more when I do the video, but that Impala belongs to a friend of mine who is retired, and he's owned that car over 50 years, which I think is just incredible. Anybody who's kept a car 50 years, that's pretty impressive. But anyway, I'm gonna do a little walk around video of that car just to talk about it and some of its history. I think it's just really neat and really cool car for him to still use. So, okay, yeah, that was what Leonard was asking about. So yeah, okay. Let's see. Yeah, Leonard wants to know when the drive-up window's open for my McDonald's muffins. Reese, what do you think about doing a dual exhaust conversion? Is it worth it? Dual exhaust is debatable. Depends on what you're doing with the car. If you've got performance mods that are pretty impressive, it might help. It will help. But if you're basically stock, it's just going to change the sound. It's not going to do much beyond that. Cilantro with steak and a sandwich. Well, that might be good. Let's see. Robert Adams, I'm probably better off running a Cat 5 to the shop and doing a live stream. Well, you never know. You can do that. Pico de Gallo. Yeah. Okay. I've had my Monte SS 85 since 1990-ish, second 160 miles, 2,300. Yeah. That's a cool car. Back when he still made front engine rear wheel drive Monte Carlos. That was cool. But anyway, I'm looking at the clock, and I think we've been on, hour and 54 minutes. That's a long time.
Some guys.
Oh, here we go.
So that there,
Yeah.
1972 XA Ford Fairmont hardtop. It's an Australian-made vehicle. I had that for about 10 years. 302 Cleveland C4 and just a 8 3/4 ball corner diff. But also in the hardtop, you could get a GT Falcon, which was a 4V 351, a top loader, and the Ford 9-inch. So I had that one for about 10 years. I brought that car when I was 21, so 2002. I've just loved old cars. I love them. That was a car show. That was a friend of mine's. That's a 74 XB Falcon, and that had a 351 in it. This is just some of my old cars. This is only a fraction of what I've had. That's just a couple of shows. These photos are quite old. That there was a 77 XC Falcon Ute that had a 4.1 cross flow in it. Just pretty basic, apart from I put a set of mag wheels on it.
See you, Dave.
Yeah, so this is basically the New Zealand Australian Falcon of the early 70s.
Yeah.
Two-door hardtop. That car, I sold it in 2011 for $22,000, and that car would be in the vicinity of 60 to 70,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we had the Ford panel van.
Wow.
A lot of you guys in the US will not know these vehicles, apart from Mad Max or the Road Warrior. Yeah.
Well, Mad Max is the first one.
So Ford Escort panel van.
Wow.
So that's a European car, but yeah. So they were basically the older ones that I've had. So that's just a comparison on some of the cars that we've had over here. We have over here.
Yeah.
A lot of people compare the two-door Falcon to the Torino.
Yes.
Of the early 70s.
Very similar.
Very similar body styling. Yes, it is.
Yeah. In fact, I think the other night, I think I had a dream about that, about the Mad Max car and a Torino. And I was thinking, how could you take the Torino and convert it to make it look like the Mad Max car? Because the body lines are similar, but the quarter window is a different shape.
Yes.
And of course, the nose is different on the Mad Max car. But that's one of those things where it'd be really cool to have one. People do reproduction of those. But
I do remember back in 2003, it was 100 years of Ford, and in Dearborn, they had 40, 50 of those two-door Falcons, and a lot of people were buying them in America. They were importing them from here and Australia, and they love them.
Yeah,
right-hand drive, and they're a big dollar car, and something that you don't see over there.
Right. Yeah, and that's what makes them so unique. We see cars in a movie, and we're like, "Oh, look at that!" It's like all the Holden stuff in Australia, all the Holden names, all the crazy stuff they build. That's why we ended up with that V8 Pontiac or whatever it was, the GTO.
Now, over here it's called a CV8 Holden Monaro over here, but in America it's called the Pontiac GTO.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
And it was really interesting when you start calling off names, like we'll just say a 65 Impala SS or a Mustang GT or whatever, but then over there you've got, this is a blah 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 X roof B prototype 7. It's like all kinds of extra words. It's like, just give it a name. You don't have to. But I guess that's just the way it is. You have to have some sort of a broad name pattern there. But it's
like Greg in Australia when you had that the Viewers Project, Greg with the Cortina.
Yes.
His one's got a V8 in it. And that was a very, very popular conversion in the 80s and 90s. People getting these Cortinas, they were standard. In Australia, you could get a factory 6-cylinder Cortina, which I think Greg's may have been a factory 6-cylinder. He will correct me if I'm wrong. But over here, we didn't get many 6-cylinder ones. We usually only got the 2-litre, as you guys call the Pinto,
Yes.
the open cam 4-cylinder. But yeah, the conversion for a V8 and a Cortina was very popular. It's like putting a 302 into a Fox body Mustang, which seems to be quite a popular conversion these days in America. Small
Sure.
car, lots of horsepower, and a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. And that's where, I see people, there's pages that I follow on Facebook, and one of them I think is wrecked muscle cars or something. And I'll see cars that are from Australia primarily, where they've been in an accident, and it's a 4-door, whatever the name is, Falcon something, and some guys over here are like attacking it. Oh, it's just a 4-door, nobody cares, blah 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 blah. And I said,
yeah,
sure they do. Those cars matter in that country. You may not like it here, but that's irrelevant. It's what they like and what they grew up with or always wanted. So you don't belittle that car because you're not familiar with it. Learn a little bit of the history and then have an appreciation for what that car is, because we didn't.
That's right.
Yeah. Here in the States,
when you're talking about Chevys, 57 Chevys, most of them over here, unless you specifically import one from the US, are all 4-door. Anything that was registered new in the New Zealand market at that time was all 4-door. Right.
And that's the big difference. You in your country, and you grew up with the 4-doors as being the car, because they were practical or whatever reason they had for that. So here in the States, 4-doors are just kind of frowned upon, commuter cars and stuff like that. But if that's what you grew up with and what you're accustomed to, what's the difference? That's fine. But yeah, I do like seeing some of that stuff though. That's interesting to see the different body designs and all that stuff. Let's see, I've got a couple various comments coming through. So it's, and it's okay. I like seeing these little side conversations. I don't know, people posing a question and talking back and forth. I think that's great. It lets people answer or help each other out with questions. Big King. I'm a long-time mechanic, but unfortunately I had major unexpected surgery 6 months ago. Your is great, and I see the quality of you build. P.S. I have a 67 GTO I've had for 42 years. Well, you get a bell for that. That's a long time to have a car. Yeah, Australia's right-hand drive. Yep.
Yes, yes it is. Same with New Zealand. Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yes.
And we can't help it. They don't know what side of the road to drive on. We can't do anything about that. But the reality is, we have our steering wheel on the left and we're in the center of the road. Your steering wheel's on the center of the road, just on the other side. So it's the same concept. It's the same, reasoning or purpose. But
I will say, I'll say something there. My parents had a 59 2-door hardtop Edsel, and left drive 292, I think 292, and I got to drive it once. And being left hook, big car, coming up to a roundabout, it's amazing how wide you take that roundabout because you're on the other side of the road. You're on the other side of the car. So
yeah, it's a whole different feeling.
It's a little bit of a challenge when you first, especially those Edsels, they're a big car. And we've got pretty small roundabouts here. Yeah, it was interesting. Taking wide berths so you didn't hit the curbs.
Yeah, it's like whenever I drive, I drive a little Ford Focus, so it's a very small 4-door car.
Yeah.
And then when I get out of that and I get in my Suburban, drive it, it's a whole different, it's incredibly different feeling. And if you do 60 miles per hour in the Focus, it feels like you're flying. But if you're doing 80 in the Suburban, it feels like you're barely moving, space and time concept. Yep. Jack says throw a thumbs up out there. So yeah, thank you, Jack. Get a bell for that. Hey, Pete Anderson is totally restoring a four-door Falcon. So that's from Leonard. I don't know who that is, but cool. Reese, do you have any experience with a 7.3 Power Stroke? No. I don't know. I haven't worked on any diesel stuff. Just not in my wheelhouse. So, no, I don't. And don't plan to. Not at this point. So, okay. So we're over 2 hours, and I'm getting tired of sitting on this little stool. So I know for me, let's see, 9. And what time is it there for you? You're like at 6?
2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon.
Say again?
2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon here.
2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. So it's way ahead. Okay. Yeah. For me, I'm done. Okay. So I'm going to call it a night, and let me see if I can take that off. And I want to thank Brendon for being here. And like I said, if you want to be part of this, and you can, I don't care what country you're from, as long as you can get in, to the time, that would be great. And you send me an email, we'll figure it out back on again. It's hard to say, but I think it's fun. It's great to share and talk this way because this, I would never have thought that I would be having this conversation when I was 20 years old. Just never would have crossed my mind. So, but I'm going to call it a night. You have any closing remarks, Brendon?
Thumbs up, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
And
all right.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been great. Everyone's a world of knowledge, and I look forward to coming back on again in the future. Yeah, it's been enjoyable.
We'll work it out. Yeah, because I know
Awesome.
you're off for the next 2-3 weeks, right?
Minimum. Yeah. Yep. That's right.
Yep. Yeah. So you'll have time.
Plenty of time on the projects too.
Yeah. Well, get that done. Yeah, and I have more to do on this Mustang. I will point out, I've got a lot of feedback on the last engine transmission video that I did. Some really great ideas and comments. I'm hoping to incorporate some of those and make some changes. That video, I was very frustrated, especially at the end, because so many things were just falling apart in the sequence. And it's easy to get frustrated. So like I said before, sometimes you got to step back, go have some coffee, give it a day, think about it. In my case, pose questions on YouTube and get people to respond, and then use that knowledge to try to improve. So it's great to have that feedback. So anyway, thank you all for being here, and we'll do this again next week. And until next time, like I say, take care of yourselves.
See you guys.
See you, Brendon.
See ya.